Hello, good evening, and welcome to the fifth episode of Diaries. I'm Fiona Mbowa, and I'm excited to be here where we talk about anything and everything to do with marriages. This evening, our topic is something that keeps us asking questions. Is there a marriage and work balance? Is it even possible? So, today we're looking at how to get the best of both worlds, the marriage and the work. And I am honored to be hosting a great couple here, Jotham and Hellen Sempewo.
Sempewo.
Sempewo, yes, who are going to take us through this topic. Is there even something like called a balance between marriage and work? Or I can concentrate on marriage alone and leave the work alone, or I can go to work. Or are there people who have actually mastered this art of balancing it out, of getting the best of all worlds? Or is actually does one have to suffer for the other one to grow? So these are the things we're going to be discussing today. But before we get into that, I just want to just tell us a bit, what do you do? Because we're talking about balancing work, so we need to know. What do you do, Jothan?
Thank you very much, Fiona. I am a civil engineer. I'm also a PhD holder in civil engineering.
Okay.
But I'm also married, as you've introduced, so that's that's on the other part. But in civil engineering, I work with Uganda Electricity Generation Company, but at the same time, I also do some lecturing with Makerere University.
Okay, Helen will have to tell us how much this has affected the marriage, but later on. Yes, Helen, just what do you do?
Me, I'm a teacher, but not a science teacher, an arts teacher.
You're enjoying being an arts teacher?
Yes, and I teach at Kasengeje Senior Secondary School in Wakiso district.
Okay, what subjects do you teach?
I teach geography.
You teach geography. So, okay, thank you very much for
Then I'm a
joining.
mother, a wife,
A sister, a friend.
sister, a friend. Yeah, name it.
Yes. So, from what Jotham said, I'm seeing very many years of study.
Yes.
How did you manage that?
Hey, patience pays.
You would be waiting patiently for him to study.
You'll be waiting patiently for him to study. Yeah, but like you asked, I think you need to try as much as possible to balance. He tried as much as possible to balance his time of study and marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, for example, he would call almost on a daily basis.
So he was actually away.
He was away. He first went to Netherlands. Where?
Yes, I went to Netherlands for 2 years.
That is from 206.
206 to 208, I came back, and then I left in 209 for the UK, and then I spent there 4 years, and 2013 I came back.
4 years.
4 years, yes.
How was the marriage in that time?
The marriage was a distance, but they call it what?
Long distance.
Long distance. But he would come once a year, in December. Then later on, I would also go there once. You go over your capital.
I like that. Yes.
So you have that time you're busy.
And that is a balance. Also.
That is a balance.
Yes.
So actually, we produce most of our children Gatari. Yeah, the two boys actually was not here. The one of 207 and 2013.
So you would go?
Yeah,
You
either he
conceive?
comes or you go, you conceive.
Okay.
That we are balancing.
You're balancing.
You come
I can already
teaching,
see.
when he gets time, he comes or you go. Yeah, you get another baby like that.
Oh, okay. So do you really think there's something like a balance? Balancing marriage? Because you've seen now you're married.
Yes.
This marriage has to work.
Yeah.
But you also have to work.
Yes.
Is there something like a balance?
A balance is what we strive to achieve, and I think it is achievable. But for you to achieve that, you always have to do certain decisions early in your marriage.
Okay.
And if you do that decisions early in your marriage, then later, when you begin juggling here and there, it becomes something which is fairly achievable. But if early in your marriage you fail on certain aspects, for example, if you have, let's say, 10 children, or if you waste away the resources you should have invested at an early age, then at a later stage you are trying to play catch up, to try and see that you are working hard to come and redeem the resources that went through your hands, maybe because of your lifestyle you had at an early age, then it becomes a problem. But having a balance in marriage is possible. However, that has to be done early as possible. And of course, with God's guidance, everything is possible, but it can be achieved.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from Jotham is it can be achieved.
Yes.
But Helen, is it possible to excel at both?
Yes.
How?
One, you have to be very committed to your marriage. And just like I've told you, the time I spent here, I was committed to our marriage, just as he was. So, and you know that you also have to understand that whatever he's going through or they're working too much is for the good of our marriage and family. So you're not going to have these
Small
other feelings,
quarrels.
small quarrels over, because you already understand that someone is doing this for your sake and for your good.
Okay.
Yes,
Then,
but also having a balance is something you do deliberately. Deliberate means that there are some ways of life you have to adapt. One of them is delegation of power and authority. You give some of your things you do to your wife, because me, as you've seen, I have kind of, my plate is full with what I have to do, but at the same time I can't do everything. So I have got some roles which I've handed over to my wife, which she does to try and free me up from that kind of heavy schedule. So when I'm deliberate, she would then be able to do some chores for me, because you understood she's a teacher, so she tries to complement me. So she may have some free days more than I do, have, and so complementarity is very key to supporting each other to achieving a work-life balance, because where you feel you are not able to achieve, you are able to support your spouse to do that. And then when you get that load off them, that time is given back to the spouse who has supported you. For example, I may be building a house and I send her to go and buy cement, and that
Relieves you of some time.
relieves me of some time. And that is always very important.
So, okay. Delegating. Can this delegation be like you make the money, she spends the money? Like, is that delegation?
Yes, because 1 + 1 is 1. So my wife is fully delegated to do anything.
1 + 1 is 1.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, she's fully delegated, because understand the time when I was away, she had to run the home when I was not around. So she knew all that our income was, and she would manage the home single-handedly even when I was not around. So when I came back, I didn't try to interrupt that kind of flow, because when I was away, for example, I would leave my bank cards with her, and then she knew everything at that time. Now that when I returned, I never cut it short, but I maintained the status quo, and then try and concentrate on the work, but not too much of the work, because of course when it is too much, it's too dangerous, because it kills the friendship you're trying to build with your loving partner. So for example, for us, we've been 20 years in marriage, 20 years in marriage, but these 20 years come through that kind of trying to build, because when we try to achieve work-life balance, we are trying to give back the saved time back into the family. And when you give back that saved time into the family, it helps to build you together, your togetherness and your closeness, and also time now. Because remember, I said we had family, we had children who were growing up, and those children who were growing up, now when I returned, I had to make up for my lost time.
For the lost
So I
time,
needed
yes.
that time to balance because I needed to try and save some time from work and put it back to support my children as they grow.
Okay.
Yes.
Helen, what's your take on that?
About balancing.
Perfect. Like, is because one thing he's saying is there's a bit of intentionality. You have to be
You
intentional.
purpose to do it,
Yes.
yeah.
It just doesn't happen. You have to put in the time and somehow make it work. Now, for him, he's speaking on the side of he leaves some of the duties to you so that you relieve him. Now, on the receiving end of the duties, how does it feel?
Yeah, like I told you, Fiona, this is for the good of our family,
Yes.
yeah, and marriage. So receiving end, I have no problem. Me, I'm not as busy as him. I have some free time.
Yes.
So I have no problem in doing most of this work. And besides, acquired the powers, the financial powers. Now, for him, what I do, I implement and consult the engineer. Kino kindemye.
What do I do here?
What do I do? Bino biganye, come and see. Okay, I'll come and see in the evening.
Yeah.
But this other thing, I have no problem. I have the time, I have the finances, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Interesting. I like
Yeah.
the partnership here.
Yes, but also for you to achieve work-life balance, it's not a work as in work meaning where you are employed. They are in a home. You also have to have shared roles. You can't be the same husband who is working, buying the tomatoes, buying the onions,
Why
cooking
not?
no,
Why
but
not?
it's too much, you know. You cook
Yes.
all the onions, then you have to help the kids with the homework, and then so you have to find the ways. Even at home, there are certain benefits you can
Balancing.
to balance it off. Like
But Jothan, you're going to make our husbands lazy. They need to be able to cook at home and then also do homework
I also
with their
cook.
children.
I
Do
cook.
homework with their children.
And he's a
and
very
then-
good chef. You
I
can
cook,
invite
yeah,
him
because
over.
for all the years I was abroad, I was cooking for myself. Not only abroad, even now, my kids can cook. All of them, even the one who is the last born, who is 10 years, he can cook a chapati very well.
Wow.
And that's something I passed on to them, not by telling them,
But by seeing you
by
actually
yes,
eating.
during the process when I'm saving time to the family, I teach them to give them some kind of skills which I know they will need abroad now.
But also it's helping you have time together.
Hey.
Yes.
Hey, so it's
For
not
example,
just,
I enjoyed the Women's Day of, was it last year?
Yes.
He prepared for me chitoke in Ndagara.
What?
Yes.
Like the traditional
The
matoke.
Rio with the sun, ne beegalira mu fumbiro.
That is interesting.
Yes.
And they
So,
cooked the
They
matoke.
cook the matoke.
And it was edible.
Very.
No,
We-
but that is interesting because
Yeah.
that means if I'm tired also of come home, we can actually even share,
Exactly.
balance the home thing so that we
Yes.
get time even to be together.
Making a bed. If you're tired and you ask him,
I thought the bed making is for the last person in the bed. Whoever is the last in the bed is the one to make the bed.
cleaning up the bathroom.
Yes.
Sometimes, you're here and there, and maybe he sees there's some necessity, and you find him, yeah.
So in balancing work and life, it's not only at work,
At work.
even at home, you share responsibilities and then you save this time. For example, if your wife you're cooking, let's say 10 dishes and she's doing matoke, you can do the kalo and then you save that time for time you have together.
Whereas even as you cook together,
you also
you're
yes.
being together.
Yes,
Yes, you're doing
sharing.
together. But also, it's also very important to learn that the kids are a monkey see, monkey do. So if they see that you are doing something, it will become very easy for them. But for the kids of nowadays, they are very hard to tell, please do this or please do the other. So you always have to do it with them, and then it becomes very obvious and very easy. However, instructing them, it becomes hard. So those are some of the advantages or the benefits you get through the kind of work-life balance, because the kids are then able to see and to learn. You are able to get closer to your spouse, and then also you are able to to develop, because you will save a lot of time. And then as we grow older, it's also good for your health. Yes.
Like the moving around. And
The moving around, the relaxation. These days people have something they call stress, which can be defined very well. If you are with your spouse through the cooking, through all those processes you do, you release the stress. That's why you see ladies sometimes are less stressed than the men, because they are always doing lots of things at home and in the house.
Okay, Jothan, you're making it seem like, okay, this is easy, and it makes people are struggling. Is there a time in your life that you found it hard to balance these two? Or it's always been this rosy?
No, it is not that rosy. And it's always sometimes, not sometimes, but most of the times it can be a challenge, because you are under pressure as a man to try and see that you are supporting the home. Okay? Now, there is a time when you always try to look for things you're doing, and you get some kind, a lot of, what do I call, bumper harvest. You have too many gigs to do, you have this job to do, you have this task to do, you have the other. There are times when that happens, but it can't be for all the time. Maybe in a year it can be 1 or 2 months. But
is there an experience you don't mind sharing with us? Like at that point when you felt one was suffering because of the other?
Oh, yes. One of them, okay, that's the obvious one, the studying. But it was the cost I realized you had to pay, because I had to leave my family for a long time. But I only had to go through that to get better, be able to meet, to support my family better. But also, there are times when I get some kinds of small consultancies as an individual, and then there are very many. Yes, there are very many.
You take in more than you can.
You're not really taking. You apply for more, and then they respond at the
all
same
come.
at the same time. They all delay. You may take the all delay, and then they show up at the same time. Now, in such cases, you always have to find a way to try and be deliberate. When I say be deliberate, you know that every day, every Sunday, I have to go to church. That is not optional. You know that you have to be at home, let's say by 6, 7 every day. You know, you have to be deliberate in such cases.
So you need to set some ground rules for
You
yourself.
have to set ground rules. You have to set your standards. But also, you can't take in everything. If I decided to take in everything, I will have 3,000 jobs. That's too much. You'll never have time. So you only have to take in this much, which you feel you can swallow, or which you can handle, because you can't take in what you cannot handle. So that is also a key step in doing the work-life balance. Don't take in more work than you can process or even handle, because it will break you. And if it breaks you, it's your family which will suffer. Either emotionally, you may be present in the home, but emotionally absent. And that is not good. So what you want and what you are desiring is to be present physically and emotionally. Now, for that to happen, you have to be deliberate, and that is always very important.
Okay, I hear you. Helen, where do you think couples go wrong in balancing this out? Because this is something that is actually, we are struggling with. Most of us are struggling with balancing it out. Where do you think most of the couples go wrong?
Yeah, I think some couples maybe don't understand. You see, when someone is working for the good of the family, that it's for the benefit of the family, I don't think it will be an issue. But some people fail to understand that this working is not for the individual,
but it's for all of us.
For all of us. So that attitude is very important. Then even as we do our work, does it benefit you, my spouse? Why it is for your...
But now, how does it benefit my spouse? Like now teaching, how does it benefit?
Yeah, this from
Your spouse?
I earn.
Yes.
So once in a while you can say, you know what, I was passing by this place, I saw this, I think I can get it for
Oh,
ourselves.
that is what you mean. Okay.
Yes. Yeah?
So what am I bringing to the table with all this work I'm
Yes,
doing? Oh.
a little you can manage. So that someone naye amanye nti, okay, in her working, however little it is, it benefits us.
All of us.
Yeah.
So I don't think that way the attitude will be this other negative one.
So you think some people just work for themselves, and that brings in the issue of why are you working if it's not helping?
You would rather sit home. After all, I am the one who does each and everything. Then also it is important to share and know what someone earns and because oluusi tubeeramu with
Oh yes.
questions,
Like,
you're
how
not
much
sure
does my husband
oba afuna miliyoni oba gali 5 kati ezo zonna zigenda wako yadde azituko.
And I think it's worse if you think he earns more than he earns, or she earns. You're like, hey, this man, all that money, where is it?
That is why now me, for example, I didn't complain because we have projects we do. He will give you all the cards, you withdraw all the money and spend it, and then you say, now we don't have money. Then he asks you, because you have spent all the money, where do you want us to get what?
Money from.
So when you know what is in the basket, you know what is in the basket, you sit and plan together what to use it for, then I think it is much easier and it will not make anybody.
It won't bring a strain.
Yeah,
It won't bring a strain, and each of you will complement each other because you know you are working towards the same goal.
Yes.
And like she said, you may bring it. If we are trying to furnish this as a sitting room, instead of me working for all these items and someone brings this table here, I will only have less time saved for me for this table. And that is also very important. So being open and deliberate is key to improving your work-life balance because your spouse will definitely know. Most of the times, some ladies will stay home and they will just keep demanding. And when you keep demanding, you give. It's like you are making the man works from 8, 9. He keeps increasing the hours in trying to balance off these demands.
So you're saying that the demands of one spouse can push the other
Of
to
the
lean
home
more to the work,
to the
more
work
than
than
marriage.
to the marriage. And if you are having someone who is over demanding, now my wife is a bit, not a bit, she's very understanding, so she knows how much the pot is, and then she says, my husband, whatever the pot is, we shall live within that. We shall make do with that. Now if you are having a family who has unrealistic targets, then they are those who will skew your work from normal, where you say it is not be able to achieve, to where it will never be achieved. Okay, you want to drive a Rolls Royce, which you will never achieve. That means you have to work 36 hours a day, and you know in a day we have 24 hours. So
you'd have to borrow from the next.
you have to borrow from the
From
next,
God.
and then you have to keep borrowing to keep paying the debts, and that is something that is very unbearable. You also have to be able to live within your means, because if you don't live within your means and you take loans, which you can't pay off, then that means you are going to borrow from people. You have to work more to pay people's debts. And I will tell you, you will even die before you ever pay off those debts, because sometimes the interest rates accumulate faster than you anticipated.
Yes.
So the issue of work-life balance is an issue which touches very many aspects. You have to be together, you have to plan together, you don't have to be extravagant, you have to plan within your means, and you have to take your children to schools which you can afford. Now, if for me I can afford a school of 1 million per month, and I take my kids to, let's say, Econs, okay, that means I have to be working at Econs level. Now, if that salary of mine does not give me that money, it will make me keep running up and down, and then also it will also make me keep doing things that are not conventional, that are not acceptable, and that will create an imbalance.
Wow. Jotham and Helen here as we talk about how to get the best of both worlds, marriage and work, without one failing to make the other achievable. Is it possible to have the best of both lives, marriage and work? And I want, before we went for the break, we're talking about how to make this work. Because we thought, one, it is intentional. You have to intentionally set out to make it work. But then I want us, and we're talking about how couples have gone wrong, where they've gone wrong.
Yes.
And one of the things was we don't disclose what is true or what is honest to our spouses, and that brings us back down. So, in your experience, how would you advise the newlyweds? Because there's something you said, Jotham, that this needs to start at the very beginning.
Yes.
We need to start at the beginning. So, for my viewers who are just 2 months into marriage, 1 month into marriage, what advice do you give them about balancing this thing out?
Thank you very much. Now, achieving a work-life balance is a task that has been undertaken by you couples right from the start. Disclosing is easier done at the start rather than at a later stage. And also, it's good for you to capture growth. But what I would encourage couples to do is that everything they have to do at the start. One, to disclose. There's nothing to hide. I've lived that, and I know there's no harm about it. The second thing is that you have to set realistic targets.
Okay.
Realistic targets as a family when you have just married your wife. When I got my wife 20 years ago, our wedding was just a simple, basic one, but we were simple, but with a resolve to go and work harder and move better. By the time she married me, I had no PhD. For her, she had. And she had, for me, I had no PhD. She also never had. But what she could give in the family was, say, for me, I will be home to look after the children. You go and study. So you have to be having realistic targets.
Okay.
Now, realistic targets means you are going to have a realistic lifestyle, because work-life balance is people working to try and meet their lifestyles. Some people are able to achieve that, some are not. Okay. So when you have a spouse, like my spouse is not always demanding. If you have a spouse who is always demanding for very good things, which she's worth more than gold, as they say,
Yes.
But you have to know how much within your limits you can ask for. For example, you've just finished married. I hope you have a job of 2 million, and your spouse also has a job of, let's say, 1 million, and you are looking for a house to rent of 1.5. You get it? And then after getting a house to rent for 1.5, you go and take a car loan from DFCU leasing or from any other leasing company, and then you stake half of your salary into those car loans. And then you take a loan for about 5 years or 6 years. Now that means you've already set up yourself for no work-life balance, because you are trying to work to feed your home, to pay the rent which you can't afford, and then pay the car.
But now, Jothan, what I'm trying to understand. So meaning, I can decide, you know what? Let us just enjoy our marriage. Me, I won't even demand for things. I'll just be a simple woman. Can we just enjoy our marriage and you work less, maybe work 3 hours a day and come back home?
I have to declare this, that I am in Buganda, and in Buganda they say the home belongs to the woman. So if we come and there is no development, they are going to blame the woman.
They'll say it's a woman.
So when I'm talking about demands, I'm talking about demands that are liabilities rather than development oriented.
And what I'm saying is, if my demands are few, I don't want the nice clothes, I want that I can stay in a 200,000 house, I just want to stay with my husband at home.
No, those are not the demands I'm talking about. When I'm talking about demands, I'm meaning you should be very deliberate. Remember, you talked about deliberate. You should be deliberate on development-oriented demands. I have come here with my wife. Every day, there are some development-oriented demands. She's always telling me, this you have not yet done, this you have not yet done. We need a house. You've not done the fence wall. That is a must. You've not done this. Those are development oriented. Now there are
Yes.
those lifestyle based. Okay, take me to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
You get it
anniversary.
for anniversary, which is okay. Right now, I don't know. I can try, but which is okay. But then it is not something I could have tried to be able to think about. So because someone one time told me that never enjoy life before you make means of enjoyment, or else life will enjoy you. So you better spend that money based on your how much you put aside rather than from your direct savings you get. Okay? So the demands should be there, but they should be very realistic. And realistic, I mean, they should be development oriented. One, if I'm going to rent a house, definitely I don't think you are able to afford Kololo. You can maybe move to Chanja and get a house of 600. Or I know there are good houses around here in Wakiso, Kira, of 600. A car, you don't need to get a 2.5 liter car. Instead, get a 1.8 liter car where you put in fuel of 20k and you are able to move. Because if you put in fuel, you have a car which is taking fuel of 50k, or you buy an old Land Rover which is 4.56 cylinder, you'll be spending a lot of money on your car. Now, spending the money is not the issue. It gives you pressure as a man
To even go
to go work harder.
And that
Messes up your family. So there is a woman one time who told the wife, my husband, you are telling me you are looking for money. Can you define for me how much that money is? Say that we know that when you work today, we knock off 1,000 or 2,000. Say that we know tomorrow we are 2,000 shillings less. Okay.
So what happens to people who are just naturally workaholics?
Now,
I have a friend who, for him to function,
he
has to be at work.
Now, I happen to be an engineer, and most of the times we engineers tend to have that workaholism. But I thank God I have a good wife who has tried to balance me off and
She balances you.
and
Helen, how do you balance
and
you
make
off?
me softer on the edges, because at least in my work-life balance, she always reminds me that, honey, it's getting late. I'm expecting you home. I think dinner is about to be ready. Don't
Helen,
come.
share the secrets. How do you balance this?
So you first send a message if it is 8. Are you okay? Nakadam 9. I'm finishing up a meeting and so like I said, you keep those polite reminders, because we are not a couple which is used to going out late. So it is rare, it is not on daily thing. It's rarely when he goes out. And like I told you, I know when he's out, it is for a reason. And besides, he tells you early. He'll tell you at about 3, 4. Honey, I have made an appointment with I'm going to Institute of Manufacturing Engineers and I have a meeting. Maybe I'll come in late. And I know. So that if someone has told you, you know where he is.
What is the problem?
What is the case? So I just remind him that,
It is getting there. Okay.
Then sometimes when it's like a partyish thing, he will say, you can join me.
Then you go and
and we come back to
I always ask her to join me on many things, not only for parties, but even for most of the engagements. Sometimes I have in this country and even out of the country.
Interesting.
Yes.
So, Helen, you're a teacher.
Yes.
Now, what happens on that day when there's a child who has given you headache? How are you able to come back home and leave the school at school, and then you come home to home? Or imagine you had a frustration at home. How do you not take it to school? Or isn't there a time when they should be okay to actually take this thing? One should cross over like this.
Yeah, they will cross over, but I'll start with the one at school. If I get any challenge at school, the first person I call?
Him.
He's my chief advisor. how do I handle this? You know, this and this has happened, what, and then he tells you.
Okay.
So now when I come back in the evening, it is okay, we shall carry on from where we ended on phone. Just like him.
Yes.
If he has any challenge, he always
Talk to you
talk
about
to me,
it.
whether or on call or physically when we meet.
So it is okay for these things to crisscross.
Yes, sometimes they cross. As long as it is not this serious. Like the other day, he promised me he's going to design for me a program to do my schemes of work on the laptop, where every year I just change. Because it is okay as long as you share and it is not infringing on your time together. You can actually use that time
To even be together.
On a laptop, like on a if you have something to do.
Because work has frustrations, at least what I've seen.
It really has.
It has frustrations.
Yeah.
But some couples you find sharing my frustration with you becomes an issue. And then I think it should be an element of bringing us close together.
So I think, Fiona, it's about the friendship. Jothan is my friend. So if he's my friend, I don't find it hard to share with him anything.
Your frustration.
Yes, and I think as couples, we have to learn to communicate more and agree on what we need to do for our own well-being. Like, everyone carries home work, not so? But for example, at home we agreed there is no laptop in our bedroom.
Okay.
So when he has work, he'll say, I have something to finish, like 20 minutes. He goes to the study room.
Out of my bedroom.
He does the computer, he would have taken it long time ago to the study room. So he tells you, you know what, let me finish this and send this report, then I come. I ask how long? The whole night? No. 20 minutes. Then he's done.
And that brings in the important point of having rules, which are very key to work-life balance.
That's what I was going to say. Helen has...
No, there are rules.
You people have very good rules.
You have rules. For example, when I went to study, I asked my wife, I told my wife, let me go and read, the books will end now. And she told me, go, but be sure this is the last time I'm hearing about your books. So when I went, we agreed, no more books. Because all the books I had to open were those ones when we were away. So when she came back, she said, me?
Now we know more books.
Books we put, okay, if you are going to do books, you have your whole day to yourself. In the evening, it's our time. And so those are some of the rules that you put in place to support each other. They may seem crazy rules, but later you realize they are very, very important. And these were very important for us. Even when I'm working, I know that I have to finish my work, so I have to improve my efficiency, make sure that I don't carry work home.
So, Jothan, someone would say that maybe that is easy if you're working in a particular organization, but there are some organizations where you have to work late, where you have... How would such a couple handle if they're... would the rules still apply? Yeah,
Fiona, the rules still apply. I told you I do that, but I also have other things I engage into, some like private kind of work. You should come up with a mechanism for making sure that you only take work that you can manage. You should only take work that you can manage. Work you carry home, okay, it happens once in a while, but not every day. If this is happening every day, then there must be a problem. There must be a problem. And this, in homes where that happens, it keeps creating a small gap between you and your spouse. And when certain things small happens, you don't have a soft landing to land on, and no one is able to support you through this. So even when it comes, I know there is always a temptation, but what is most important in life is that you have to give priority to your family. Because when it comes in work-life balance, it's about saying work and family, which one is better. Now, for you are talking about balance, if someone told you which one would you choose, that becomes even a more complex question. But for me,
what would you choose?
I would choose family. Very sure. Yes.
Helen, what would you choose?
Family. Fiona, look here. If they chase me at work, where will I go?
You'll go yes to him, but Okay.
You know, it is that's
This
my.
is mine for life till death.
You know, why you
Yours
choose
first.
family is that you can have another boss easily, but you can't have another family easily.
Okay.
You can even have 10 bosses, but you can't have 10 families.
So I mean, these people who, when we keep saying my boss won't understand, we're just giving excuses basically. At least one thing I've learned is people adapt to what you tell them. If people know that when it clocks 6, Jothan has
Yeah,
to go
for my
home,
years.
they will learn to respect that.
Right.
Like somehow it gets in their mind that at 6 you leave.
And even people respect you at work if they know you respect your family.
Yes.
People will not respect you if they know you are not respected by your family, and people will despise you if they know you are in a bad relationship with your family. And they will always respect you and say, that man loves his wife. That's a plus. And to have that, you have to be deliberate.
So we need these rules. Many times we think
You
we
need
are.
to be deliberate, have the rules, and say, for this, I always go in for my family. For example, I have one simple rule: the only phone I may pick when I'm in a meeting is the one for my wife. The rest I can't pick.
Interesting.
And she knows if she calls and I don't pick the first time, she knows I'm in a meeting. But if she knows she wants me to pick, she will then call a second time. And then the second time, I have to pick. Or I will say I'm in a meeting
Like
on
your
WhatsApp.
colleagues know if it is wife, you just have to drop everything and pick.
Yeah, I try to be careful. Of course, if you're in a boardroom, sometimes you have to be very careful. But at least the calls I only pick when I am in at work is the only call for my wife. Two, I also have a rule that if I have two calls, one for my boss and one for my wife, which one do I go for? That's also a tough
Which
one.
one would you go for?
I go
You
for my wife.
your wife. I know that some men were saying, no way. No way, no way.
No, it's true.
But yet it is a
And
good
my
thing.
argument is simple. I can easily get another boss.
But you can't get another wife.
And through my experience now, I've been through many bosses, but I've had one wife. So the constant is my wife, and the variable, if I'm speaking mathematically, are the bosses. Yes.
So one is an independent.
Yeah, and then one is independent, one is the dependent.
dependent.
Secondly, you know that you who did some management, you said man has to work because of the theory X, Y, and Z. And theory Z says that man wants to work, but the environment is key. There is always the aspect of respecting family when we are working. And that is always very important. In Africa here, it's not very important, but I know where I used to live or where I studied. Once you mention the word family,
you go.
You go. They don't ask you. When you say my family, they will let you go. They will always give you off, and they will give you whatever time you need, and allow you. Because of that, my wife was able to always come and see me when I was studying. Even now, if I'm going for conferences, they invite me. I always tell them I'm coming with my wife. I'm coming with my wife. I just say I'm coming with my wife. They'll write me an invitation for my wife, and then we travel.
Helen,
yes,
your briefcase holder now for him at school. Do people know that he's the one call you can pick in class?
They know, because sometimes you have your phone there, and you know how I saved him? Honey. So they say, Helen, if you're not on your phone, Honey Warid is calling.
So you know that he's that one call that you must take.
Yes.
I think that is interesting. But for me, what is really, and as the saying, what can we advise the young marrieds? I think we need to set out these rules pretty early.
Yes.
To know what can you do and what can't you do.
Yes.
Yeah, Fiona, that helped us. That has helped us because we started with it. Me, I'm not as bad as this good Muganda man. So I talk a lot and I ask a lot. He first got fed up of the questions, but later he got use. And why I ask, I want to be clear from the beginning, so that later on you don't say that here. No, I want to be clear. Then ntambule n'ekyo nga kitegedde bulungi. Yes. So I think it is important that couples lay a foundation for their marriage and friendship. There are things you need, simple things you need to share about.
And this working at times when you are starting creates a gap.
Yes, it
It's
does.
one of the weakness points where the devil will pass to create other weaknesses.
And for some reason we think that's allowable. I'm working, I mean, I'm
Yes, but
working.
you know the repercussions of this you may not see immediately,
Yes.
but they crop up later in life. And by the day they crop up, it's too late for you to even have an honest discussion with your wife to say, please, for this, I'm ready to do this, ready to ask for forgiveness, so please, let's correct this. And now when you create that gap, I'm not a very good Bible scholar, but I know even in Genesis, out of that gap
It's where the devil found space.
is where the devil found space. So you have to be deliberate just from the start that me and my wife, we shall always do this together. Actually, it is easier. You better do it at the start rather than later. Now, there are couples who don't start with it and they want to jump on it later.
But now, Jothan, should we give up if we are
No, it's not
10
give up,
years
but
in
I'm
marriage
saying
and we-
10 years you want to start it, it will be a little easier than early, than if you had started it earlier. So if you start it earlier, it is easier for you than if you start it
At 10 years.
At 50 years. It may be hard,
But
know?
it's not too late.
Not too late, but it is very possible. But the amount of effort you need
Will be much
will
more.
be much more. It's just like you have kids, you want to train them, you train them at an early age. So at an early age, you set your boundaries very fast, and then you try to fit to them. Of course, they will be inconveniencing, but after some time, you love them, because it's out of these that you then feel free. You be you benefit many things later in life.
Then also maybe to add on that, I think we talked about friendship. Couples have to try to be. You see that friendship which started with going out every day, dating, what? We don't have to stop it because we have gotten that. And we need to continue. And on top of that, we should always keep God at the center. If we have anything you want, if you're not happy with your spouse, don't hesitate to, personally me, I tell him, you know what, I am not happy about this, and I think you should do something about it. Then we close it with prayer. Say, God, I pray this man change, and always speak to him that he has to be home by 6 p.m.
And the thing I love about God is he loves even the simple detail.
Yes.
That if you tell God, I'm praying for
Specifically
my
what you
husband
want.
to be back by 5. They don't know, they just find themselves home. They don't know what
Somehow God works.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. This has really been interesting. And I'd like each of us to just give a comment to our viewers. What would you want them to take away from this? How do they balance the marriage and the work?
You begin? Okay, thank you very much. For me, balancing marriage with work starts with loving God, and then the second commandment is love your neighbor. And if you love your neighbor, you have to be deliberate about what they want, and your neighbor in this case is your family and is your spouse. So those two commandments govern me through this. So love your God and love your neighbor, and then everything shall be added.
Thank you very much, Jothan.
Yes,
Hellen.
thank you, Fiona. As for me, my take home would be that to balance work and marriage, because we need work. We need work. So what we have to do to balance the two is to help each other. If one is overloaded, let's help each other to have that other extra time for our marriage. Then also the little time we get, extra time, spend it with your spouse. You can go out. You can go for lunch, you can go for tea, you can go for dinner, and talk about yourselves, the two of you, not the
Not the
work
career
and
of
what,
children
yeah.
and the work and
Yeah.
what. You've heard it for yourself from Jotham and Hellen, how they've managed to balance. For 20 years, they've managed to balance marriage and work. And some of the things are unique to them, but I know that there are things that we can pick out of their story and you apply it to your marriage and see how it can benefit you. Thank you very much for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you watch us on Church of Uganda Family TV. I'm Fiona Mboa, Ring Diaries.